Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is my deep dive series into the world of Steven Universe, where we take a closer look at the characters, themes, and storytelling that made the show so impactful. In the last episode, we talked about the overall premise of the series and why Steven Universe became such an influential animated show. But today, we're going to slow things down and focus on the core of the story, the Crystal Gems. These three characters raise Steven, protect Earth, and carry the emotional weight of a war that happened thousands of years before the series even begins. But each crystal gem is more than just a fighter. They represent different emotional struggles, different personalities, and different ways of dealing with the past. So today, we're going to break down the crystal gems one by one, explore their personalities, and talk about what they represent in the story. To understand the crystal gems, we first have to understand the war that created them. Thousands of years before Steven was born, Earth was targeted for colonization by the Gem Homeworld. Gems are alien species that expands its empire by creating new gems inside planets. This process drains the planet's resources and eventually destroys the natural life that lives there. But one gem saw something different in the Earth, Rose Quartz. Rose realized that Earth was full of life, beauty, and creativity, things that didn't exist in the rigid structure of Gem society. So instead of helping conquer the planet, she started a rebellion. She convinced other gems to join her and fight against their own empire. These rebels became known as the Crystal Gems. They fought a massive war against Homeworld and eventually managed to save Earth. But the victory came at a huge cost. Many gems were corrupted, shattered, or lost during the war, and by the time the series begins, only a few crystal gems remain. The first crystal gem we meet is Garnet. Garnet is a calm, confident leader of the crystal gems. She's quiet, powerful, and usually the one keeping the team focused during missions. Garnet rarely panics, rarely loses control, and often acts as the emotional anchor for the group. But what makes Garnet truly unique isn't just her strength. It's the fact that she's a fusion. Fusion in gem culture usually happens when two gems temporarily combine their forms to create a stronger being for battle. But Garnet's different. She is the permanent fusion of two gems named Ruby and Sapphire. Their relationship represents love, trust, and choice, something that the strict Homeworld society does not approve of. In many ways, Garnet represents stability. She's comfortable with who she is and confident in the life she has chosen. But she also represents something bigger, the idea that identity can be complex and that love can challenge even the strictest systems. That's part of why Garnet is such an important character of the group. Next, we have Amethyst. Amethyst is probably the most chaotic member of the Crystal Gems. She loves junk food, messy rooms, wrestling, and video games. Compared to the more serious Garnet and Pearl, Amethyst feels almost like a human teenager. And in many ways, that's intentional. Amethyst was actually created on Earth in a place called the Kindergarten, a location where gems are artificially grown inside the planet. But something went wrong. Amethyst emerged later than expected, meaning she didn't come out the way she was supposed to. Because of this, she often feels like she's defective. She's consistently comparing herself to other gems and worries that she's not good enough. Throughout the series, Amethyst struggles with insecurity and self-doubt. But her story is also about learning to accept yourself, even if you're different, and even if you weren't what people expected. Amethyst's arc is one of the most relatable in the show, especially for viewers who have ever felt like they didn't quite fit in. Then there's Pearl. Pearl is elegant, intelligent, and extremely disciplined. She's the strategist of the group and often the most organizing missions or analyzing problems. Pearl is very precise about everything, from how she fights to how she keeps the house organized. But beneath that perfectionism is a lot of emotional pain. Pearl was incredibly close to Rose Quartz, the leader of the Crystal Gems, and Rose's disappearance left a huge emotional void in her life. Because of that loss, Pearl often struggles with letting go of the past. She holds onto memories, expectations, and traditions that remind her of Rose. Pearl's journey throughout the series is about learning how to move forward. She slowly begins to understand that she can grow beyond the role she once had. Her story deals heavily with grief, loyalty, and rediscovering your sense of purpose after losing someone important. Finally, we have Steven. Steven Universe is unlike any other character in the show. He's half human and half gem, something that has never existed before. Steven inherited his gem from his mother, Rose Quartz, which means he carries both her power and her legacy. But Steven approaches problems very differently from the other crystal gems. Instead of solving everything through combat, Steven tries empathy. He talks to enemies, he listens to people, he tries to understand why they feel the way they do. This approach slowly changes the direction of the entire story. While the original Crystal Gems fought a war, Steven tries to build understanding, and that shift in perspective becomes one of the central themes of the series. Steven represents compassion, emotional intelligence, and the possibility of breaking cycles of violence. Why do crystal gems matter? What makes the crystal gems so memorable isn't just their power or their alien origins. It's the emotional depth behind them. Each character represents something different. Garnet represents identity and love. Amethyst represents insecurity and self-acceptance. Pearl represents grief and loyalty. And Steven represents empathy and change. Together they form an unusual, deeply meaningful family. They argue, they make mistakes, and they struggle with the past. But they also grow together. And that emotional realism is a huge part of why Steven Universe connected with so many viewers. The Crystal Gems are the heart of the show, but their story is only one part of a bigger universe. Because in the next episode of this deep dive series, we're going to explore something even larger. Gem Homeworld itself. The Empire, the diamonds, and the system that the crystal gems are built against. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more animation analysis, nostalgia, and deep dives into shows like Steven Universe. And I'll see you in the next episode.